In Diablo 2, the Horadric Cube is the cornerstone of developing a lot of your late-game gear. In today's video, we're going to cover the 5 groups of recipes I use the most, saving more niche use ones for later. To be fair, we're going to skip over the crafted item recipe pools since we have a whole series of videos dedicated just to them linked in the description. These recipes are far more for general use instead. First up, the most basic recipe of all, the one that most people already use, upgrading gems and runes. The most basic form of this recipe is 3 of a lower quality into 1 of a higher quality. For example, 3 normal topaz into 1 flawless topaz, or 3 eld runes into 1 tier rune. Though for runes, this chart gets a bit more complex as you pass the Thul rune, requiring adding varying qualities of gems to reach the next tier. The full chart can be found in the description of the Alzorath video you can find below. A similar thing can also be done with 3 regular rejuvenation potions into a full rejuvenation potion, but I rarely use that one outside of hardcore personally. Next are the socketing recipes that will take 2 different runes, a perfect gem of a specific type, and the piece of normal or ethereal equipment you want socketed, and well, socket with a random number of sockets. For armor, this is Tal, Thul, and Topaz. For weapons, this is Ral, Am, and Amethyst. For helms, it's Ral, Thul, and Sapphire, and for shields, it's Tal, Am, and a Ruby. The number of sockets are randomly generated by rolling a number between 1 and 6, and then putting that many sockets in the item. If the number is higher than the item, or the eye level allows, it will put basically the maximum possible, meaning so if you roll a 6 on a shield, it'll put 4 if it's a monarch, or 3 if it's a kite shield. This is also an important recipe which allows for e-bugging armor slot items to generate extremely high defense armors, though this is a little bit more complex and the details on it will be in its own video. Next up, we dive into the first group of upgrade recipes, and that's upgrading uniques. While not as useful as it could be due to the power of rune words, there are still a lot of really strong normal and exceptional uniques that can be really handy to keep with you through Nightmare and Hell with some boost to base item quality, such as turning a dirk into a rondelle or a heavy belt into a battle belt. For normal to exceptional upgrades, armor uses Tal, Shale, and a perfect diamond, and for weapons we use Ral, Soul, and a perfect emerald, so relatively cheap in both cases, though only really useful with a handful of items. For exceptional to elite, we get a bit more pricey with Lum, Pull, and a perfect emerald for weapons, and Ko, Lem, and a perfect diamond for armors. That said, the list of exceptional uniques that can turn into solid elite uniques is a bit longer and interesting. Of course, after uniques, we can't forget the rares, our 4th group of recipes, especially since a lot of people forget that these exist. These are both fun ways to get otherwise impossible items like ethereal phase blades, but also a tool for carrying over amazing stats you found on a low roll. For example, turning an amazing stag bow you found into a matriarchal bow, or upgrading that amazing belt you found into an exceptional item for extra slots. Taking a similar recipe to the uniques, normal and exceptional takes Normal to exceptional takes Ort, Am, and a perfect sapphire for weapons, and Ral, Thul, and a perfect amethyst for armors, with elite taking Fal, and a perfect sapphire for weapons, and Ko, Pull, and a perfect amethyst for armors. Both this and the unique upgrades keep the stats, sockets, and ethereal or non-ethereal nature of the base items intact, so it can be used to create some rather powerful and interesting items. Last but not least, and by far the biggest resource hog for me, is the magic item reroll. There are a few recipes that can do this, with some limitations and other added effects, but the one I'm referencing here is the perfect gem recipe that does not diminish item level. The other ones do. It's fairly simple to put a magic item in and 3 perfect gems of any type in the cube and transmute, and it gives you a new magic item of the same type, with new properties at the same item level as before. The most common use is usually hunting skill charms, though this can also be used to reroll jewelry, jewels, weapons, armor, etc. My main use of this is rerolling Bale charms specifically, since these will be item level 99 charms, and can have any quality prefix or suffix in the game, something impossible with the normal locations you'd be using to farm generic skill charms. If you found this useful, hit the like button. If you want to know more about the odd recipes, subscribe, since those are coming soon as well.